So we have a problem here in the United States that is deeply concerning because now Russia is arming other countries, other nations to help attack the United States. It is getting just chaotic as we speak. But let me explain what's been going on and tie this in to how Russia is arming other countries. I said this just yesterday, that Russia is equipping and teaching China on aerial invasions. Yeah, this is getting scary, but out of hand. Look at this right here. It says Russia pounds Kyiv and other regions in a mass drone and missile attack. This is just from today. But here's the concern. Russia continues to pound Ukraine and getting very close to NATO nations. But yet, look at this. This is from Russia's foreign minister. He says Russia has no intention of attacking EU or NATO states. But he does go on to give a warning, and I want to address this in a moment. But listen to this right here.
Now, Lavrov just taking aim just now at the EU and also NATO, saying that any aggression against Russia from them will be met with a divisive response.
That right there is a threat, a divisive response. Because guess what has been happening? We've been hearing that the EU, okay, and President Trump said this just the other day, that he is telling NATO to shoot down Russian fighter jets. If they see Russian fighter jets in their airspace, shoot them down. Yeah, we're getting closer to a war. Let's keep listening.
He also said that Russia has been and remains open to negotiations on eliminating the root causes of the conflict, but Russia's security and interests must be guaranteed. Now, Lavrov also spoke a few days ago on Thursday. Take a look at some of this footage from that. Lavrov accused the West, as well as NATO and the European Union, of provoking the crisis in Ukraine. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with him this week and reiterated President Donald Trump's call for the killing to stop and the need for Moscow to take meaningful steps toward a durable resolution. This week, President Donald Trump announced a major shift, writing on Truth Social that he thinks Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back from its original form, retaking essentially its territory that Russia has occupied. And the president also expressed this week his disappointment in Putin for prolonging the war.
So, a major shift from President Trump, that now he wants Russia to stop. But before, and I talked about this, several weeks ago, where President Trump was really telling the Ukrainian President Zelensky to just give in to what Russia's doing, give them the territory that they currently occupy. And Vladimir Zelensky said, no, we're not going to do that. We are going to continue to fight, but we need your help. Well, listen to this right here.
I'm not going to ever call anybody a paper tiger, but Russia spent millions and millions of dollars in bombs, missiles, ammunition, and lives, their lives, and they've gained virtually no land. I think it's time to stop.
He thinks it's time to stop. But what's the White House going to do about it?
President went on to say, Dan, listen, we'll just keep selling the UN and NATO and other folks all the material they need. What they do with it at that point is on them.
That's the key. What they do with it is on them. But Russia says any missile, any military equipment that the United States is providing, whether it's given or sold to one of these countries, it does tie the United States into this conflict. I want to show you something, though. Look at this right here. It says NATO fighter jets scrambled in Poland as Russia launches deadly strikes on Ukraine. That's from this morning. What we are continuing to see is Russia is targeting Ukraine. But it's the surrounding countries, the regions around it, that are extremely concerning. Those NATO states. Because an attack on one NATO state is an attack on all NATO states, which includes the United States. But here's where things get interesting. Russia is continuing to attack Ukraine. But at the same time, they are doing these little flybys, these different tactics that if the United States or a NATO nation decides to shoot down one of these Russian fighter jets, that could be the beginning of the war. Look at this though. Just the other day, and I talked about this yesterday as well, President Trump was asked by Vladimir Zelensky if the United States could give pretty much one weapon. Just give one weapon, a long-range weapon. That was the Tomahawk missile. He didn't specifically ask for the Tomahawk missile, but he alluded to the fact that this is what he wanted. Well, President Trump told Zelensky he was open to providing new long-range weapons in potentially huge policy change. But the Tomahawk missile was the one thing that he does not want to give. Because even though Vladimir Zelensky says that Ukraine will not use it, it's at his disposal. And if your back's against the wall and that's the one thing you think is going to help you win this war and keep your citizens safe, he's going to use it. So that's the concern. But look at this right here. Here's where the United States is being pulled in. Look at this. It says Putin is pushing the limits, and Eastern allies warn Trump not to pull U.S. troops. Keep in mind what is coming up in just 2 days. On September 30th, here in the United States, what the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, is doing is he's calling in all the generals and admirals into Quantico. And from there, he's going to have a warrior ethos talk. But this is where some are saying that the United States could be setting themselves up for pretty much pulling out of certain areas, certain regions. And this is it, okay? Eastern allies warn Trump not to pull U.S. troops. Says Estonia, Lithuania, and Romania urge continuing U.S. troop presence. I talked to a friend of mine. Well, not really communicate with through email. And one of the things that he was saying is they've been doing and again, it is over in the, that region. Okay. But he said they have been doing some interesting things. And it's almost like they're cleaning up, getting ready to go. Okay. They're not packing up all their stuff, but what they are cleaning up, organizing, and this is stuff that military bases do all the time. Okay, it's nothing new. When they have a lot of downtime, they're gonna organize a little bit, clean up, right? Make sure their home is good. But one of the things he said is it's very interesting because it's almost like they're cleaning up to leave. But that's not what anyone's saying. But being that we have this meeting on Tuesday, is this where President Trump and Pete Hegseth decide, you know what, we don't need all these generals and admirals. Let's let some of them go. Let's get rid of some of our bases around the world, and let's somewhat consolidate. Right? Let's consolidate because we don't need to start a war. Let's just pull out of these regions so that we don't provoke a war. So some people are asking, is that going to happen? A couple days away. But here's why this is troubling, okay? And this is why many people believe that Russia is setting its eyes on the United States with a potential nuclear attack. But not Russia attacking the United States. It will be another country attacking the United States. Look at this. It says Iran and Russia signed a $25 billion agreement to build 4 nuclear power plants in Iran. I talked about this the other day, that this is troubling because Russia, again, the United States is providing military equipment to Ukraine and to NATO countries. And then those countries, what they do with it, it's on them. Essentially, this is the same thing that Russia's doing. Russia is going to provide some additional resources to Iran. And if Iran decides to start a nuclear war with another country, even if it's the United States, Russia's like, well, we just give them this stuff, and what they do with it, it's on them. Because what we're seeing right now is Iran is already building on their mountain. They're already building and adding to their nuclear facilities. So the United States didn't get rid of it when we bombed them, a while back. That's the concern. But look at this. And again, this is why I bring this up. It says, U.S. military brass brace for firings as Pentagon chief orders top-level meeting. Pete Hegseth summoned hundreds of generals and admirals. We get that. But why? What is happening? This is a real question. I have been doing a lot of videos on the conflict in Ukraine, possible war with the United States involved, whether it's with Iran or North Korea or Russia or China or whoever, Venezuela. Okay, I have been doing those videos for quite some time because things were looking better. Things were looking like they were improving. But then we're seeing all these reports coming out just in the past week. That's where things are concerning. That's where military personnel have no clue which direction we are going. And neither do the American people. So the one thing I can tell you right now is I'm going to stay up to date on this. I need to know what's going on. Because again, this is extremely concerning. My guess is you believe the same thing. So as we get more information as to what is going on here, what this meeting on Tuesday means, what's going to happen with Venezuela, because we learned just this past week the United States is putting plans together to bomb, drug houses in Venezuela. Physically bomb a drug house in Venezuela. This is concerning because, again, what's happening at this time? Well, I plan to get to the bottom of that, and as I do, I'll fill you in on all the latest news and updates as soon as we get them. But as of today, that is all we know. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.